he had gone on behalf of the Center for the Study of Democratic Institutions, which it's strange, during the Vietnam War, there were peace feelers. Is a weird kind of, I hate that phrase, but different people from different countries were trying to get an audience with Ho Chi Minh to find out what their conditions for peace would be. So North Vietnam and the US State Department approved that the center could send representatives. And Bill was on the board of the center, and Harry Ashmore had left the Arkansas Gazette and was the vice president. And so they were going to send Harry Ashmore, and Bill wanted to go as a journalist and actually write about what he saw in North Vietnam. And while they were there, one of the people who was their contacts that the North Vietnamese had sent to them as, sort of their handler, was actually an editor of a newspaper, the Na Da, which was the People's paper. So it was a mouthpiece for the Communist Party. It was a mouthpiece for the North Vietnam. But he and Bill had a deep respect for each other because they were both editors. And while they were there, the editor came to them and said, he wants to see you. He wants to talk to you, and he will let you interview him. And so he got a 2-hour interview with Ho Chi Minh and was pretty plainly asking, like, can we get the U.S. Red Cross in here? Or the International Red Cross in here? Can I see the POWs? Will you let me meet the POWs and see if they're okay? He asked quite a bit, and finally he was like, what are your conditions for peace? And Ho Chi Minh basically said, we're not going to sacrifice our independence for peace. We're fighting for independence. You're fighting for something else. He goes, so we're at cross purposes. So he goes, I'll sit down and talk with you when you stop bombing us. And so Bill brought that message back to the State Department. And he also came, so that was in 1967. In 1968, they got invited back to sort of send this message. We're still willing to come to the table as long as you stop the bombing. And the bombing actually stopped while they were there in Vietnam. And Ho Chi Minh and the DRV basically put together a memo called the Aid Memoir that had all of these conditions. And that's what Bill brought out of Vietnam and handed to Averell Harriman and said, here. And that became the basis for the Paris peace talks. So he ended up sort of being this accidental diplomat in the service of journalism. But at the same time, the State Department disavowed having any connection to him at all, even though he would always talk to them and say they had to get their visas from them to even be able to go. And they were constantly saying, hey, we're going to put 2 prisoners of war on the plane with you as you go into Vietnam. So they see you coming off the plane with these, and they may be willing to do a prisoner exchange, so they were, but then they would disavow them and say, oh, they're just trying to, win the Nobel, stuff like that. So it was a terrible moment because they really were trying to, find ways to end this war so that they could bring everybody home.